We had a day of no Dodgers news, but that doesn't mean we're not going to talk Dodgers. We took questions from our Locked On insiders that joined with subtext, and they provided us some questions that we're going to get into. Marcus Stroman, Dave Roberts on the hot seat, and what can stop the Dodgers from winning the World Series. Get into all that, so let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, that's simply put, you listen or watch every day and interact with us is a part of being an everydayer. And you can do that by subscribing wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. If this is your first time listening, watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host, Jeff Snider. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team in the past, writing articles in the past. We've done interviews. We've done this podcast here for coming up on 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years every day. Yeah,
coming up on 5 years. So we're not quite insiders, but we're here to bring you what we believe is smart and rational thoughts about the Dodgers, and hopefully making you a better overall Dodger fan, and you guys can help us become better overall Dodger fans and podcasters. So we're working together here. All right, Jeff, no real Dodger news in the sense of anything that happened in the baseball world. We got an update on Shota Imanaga's contract with the Cubs, which was lower than a lot of projections had him. I guess if he maxes it out, it's around where the projections had him at 5, and even a little bit
that's
under.
A little low, yeah,
a little lower, but it can max out at 580. It's like 453 right now as it stands. There's a lot of escalators and incentives and everything else, and for all that, I know there was one report that he had a bigger offer in hand and ended up going with the Cubs. But for all the hoopla and 5 teams, 6 teams, 7 teams in on him, and 5 years, 85 mil, 100 mil, whatever it was, it does seem that he got a lot less than we thought.
Yeah, our buddy Ben from Locked On Giants made a good point. Basically, it looks like he is seen as a back of the rotation starter, not a front of the rotation starter, and so it makes sense that the Dodgers, they have plenty of back end guys, and so if they're adding another starter, it's going to be either somebody on a 1-year deal to shore up the back end of the bullpen, or a top of the rotation guy. And so 4 or 5 years for a back end guy, it makes sense that his market was limited.
Yeah, that kind of segues into what we're going to talk about first. So if you want to become a Locked On Dodgers insider, there's an easy way you can do it at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and text directly with us. We put a call out to those guys, our insiders, and asked for some questions, and we got some. Enough for a few episodes worth, but definitely enough for today's episode. So we're going to just jump right into that. And the first question comes from Gatimu from Ventura County. He asked, what do you guys think of adding Marcus Stroman to the rotation?
Yeah, Gamini is 19 years old, but he's an everydayer, so we start him young. The wisdom of youth is what we call that. Marcus Stroman, free agent. He's been recently linked to the Yankees, which is kind of funny because it was only a few days ago that it was reported that he told the Yankees he really wanted to play for them, and the Yankees said no thanks. But now he's being linked, and people are saying that the Yankees are his most likely destination. Stroman is an interesting option because he was really good the first part of last year, and then things kind of fell off the last part of the year. He was a deserving all-star last year, only actually his second all-star appearance in his career for as long as he's been pitching, and he's kind of been a big name for his whole career, and yet he's only made 2 all-star teams, got Cy Young votes 1 time. But for me, what it boils down to is he was on the Cubs and the Cubs have shown no interest in bringing him back. It's like, I don't know why that is, but I suspect that if the teams that know him best aren't interested, that probably says something. I don't know what it says, but it probably says enough that, and especially when we talk about, if Imanaga was viewed as a back end starter, and so the Dodgers didn't want to give him a multi-year deal, I would guess that Stroman, you look at the Dodgers' current rotation, and where would you fit Stroman in among Yamamoto and Buehler and Miller and Glasnow? Like, if Stroman's in that rotation, he's the fifth starter. And so, and I suspect he's not looking for fifth starter money on the free agent market. So for that reason, I don't think he makes a lot of sense for the Dodgers at this point.
Yeah, it's one of those where he only makes sense if he got brought down to, okay, I'm going to take a 1-year flyer or something to that nature, where even if it didn't work out or whatever the case, the Dodgers could cut bait or just let him play out the year. In the sense of like Stroman, he's, like I said, definitely a bigger name than what his numbers have shown out. I think, he got a little bit of help from the World Baseball Classic when Team USA won. When he was on Team USA, he pitched a big game for them. He's had a couple good big games in the postseason. Nothing lights out, but he started 5 games in the postseason, and 3 of them he's gone at least 6 innings with 2 of them 6 innings, 2 runs, 1 of them 7 innings, 3 runs. So he's done well in the postseason overall. But again, that was a few years ago now, and for a different team and everything else. So he is a personality. I don't know if he's done anything specifically that would turn Dodger fans away. I'm sure there is. I honestly don't really follow him on social media and don't see, but I'm sure there when you have a big personality like that, it's you're more likely to do something polarizing because when you bring up the name Marcus Stroman, someone has an opinion on him most likely. So in that sense, he probably may not fit with the Dodgers in the clubhouse sense either, because the Dodgers don't normally have guys that are as outspoken or as active on social media. They have guys that are on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, but nothing kind of to this extent. So and that's probably another red flag in a sense, and maybe why he's been on bounced around and had a few teams now in the last or after the Cubs, and then now he's going into January. He doesn't have a team yet, so you never know. But it doesn't make sense unless he drops down to 1 year, 10 to 14 mil, which it doesn't seem like he's going to drop down to.
Yeah, and it's purely from a baseball standpoint. He had a 2.28 ERA after his game on June 20th when he threw 7 shutout innings against the Pirates, and then the rest of the season, his ERA was 8.29 in 11 games, 9 starts. He missed a month and a half with injury during that time. Just kind of, bumped his ERA. His season ERA ended up at 3.95, which is really hard to do when you are at 2.28 halfway through the season, almost halfway. And so I think Stroman is the kind of guy, if the baseball reasons make a ton of sense, you probably deal with whatever personality issues there might be, or you at least make an effort to talk to your team. Okay, what do you guys think? Is this a personality that can mesh with our clubhouse? When the baseball reasons aren't there, there's no point to even get that far. And I don't have anything against Marcus Stroman. It's kind of funny. He's been mostly healthy throughout his career. Other than 2018 and this last year, he's basically been healthy since he became a full timer. But he's 5'7", and guys who are listed at 5'7" usually aren't even 5'7". Just ask Jose Altuve. And so, maybe his body is due for a breakdown. So I don't know if guy who's almost 33, a body that is scary as far from a breakdown standpoint, and the on-field performance doesn't really bear it out. Seems like an easy pass.
Yeah, but you never know. If he does get desperate and the Dodgers say, hey, you know what, we're down to take a flyer, that's really the only way I see it happening. So,
yeah.
Dave Roberts is obviously a topic of conversation every year with Dodger fans, and we got a question about that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. We come to sports to escape from the crazy realities of life, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't be preparing for those realities in our everyday lives, because according to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics and like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. And, you might get it might sound a little scary. And there's no more helpless feeling than having you or someone else or your kid or someone in your family gets sick and there's a supply chain issue and they can't get what they need. They can't get the right medication, potentially life-saving medication that they needed, but they'll be okay now because of Jase Medical, because they have a Jase case, which is a pack of 5 different antibiotics that treat a long list of bacterial illnesses like respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others, all things that could happen to any of us. So it's easy to get your Jase case. All you got to do is go to jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. Jeff did it. It was easy. You can do it. It's easy. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to jasemedical.com and use code Locked On to get $20 off your order. That's jasemedical.com. Offer code Locked On for $20 off. Welcome back. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Remember, the Locked On Podcast Network has several streaming channels, but 2 that might be of interest to you. Locked On Sports Today is covering all the top news and stories from around the sports world with all the experts from Locked On and different shows. And Locked On Sports Los Angeles is the same thing, but just for LA sports, where you can see us and some of the other Locked On Los Angeles team hosts. So go check those out on YouTube. They're 24/7 streaming channels, so you can watch them all day, every day. So, all right, Jeff. Next question regarding Dave Roberts says from Steve Fairwich. He's from Bellevue, Washington, and he says the Dodgers are relatively healthy going into the postseason, and the Dodgers bow out early. Is Dave Roberts in trouble? Not talking about his skills or saying he should or shouldn't be fired, but do you think he has a unique hot seat just based on, you can say the Dodgers, this is me now speaking, you say the Dodgers have been World Series or bust for about the last 6 years or so, for sure. Over the last 10 years to 11 years, they've been in the playoffs, but it's been kind of a World Series or bust mentality for sure over the last 6-7 years. But it does feel a little bit different this year. And then does that mean that Dave Roberts' seat is going to be a little bit different this year?
I think so, probably. First of all, Steve he lives in Bellevue. He's actually grew up in Whittier, and his dad is from Brooklyn, so he's from a long line of Dodger fans. Whittier was the site of my greatest embarrassment in high school when I lost in 11 seconds in a wrestling match to a guy who ended up playing linebacker at UCLA until he got hurt. So he linebackered me. But yeah, I do think that I think it will be a little bit different for Dave Roberts this year. My caveat is I believe that the Dodgers front office is too smart to base things simply on results. And so, I don't necessarily think, and Steve's question specifically asked about bowing out early again. I would guess if the Dodgers get swept in the NLDS again, that it would be a very good chance that Roberts would lose his job. But again, it would depend on what happened. And I still have a hard time blaming Roberts for last year when, the team just didn't hit. And you can quibble with some of the pitching moves, but the fact is the Dodgers allowed 4 runs in each of the last 2 games of that series, but they only scored 2 runs in each of those games. And so, yeah, the pitching questions, he didn't have many great options. You could quibble with the pitching decisions, but the fact is the pitching kept them in the games. And if, most of the time, if the Dodgers allow 4 runs, they're going to win the games. The problem was they didn't hit. And so, I don't necessarily exempt Roberts from any blame, but the things that went the most wrong it's hard to see how it would be his fault. And people talk about, well, you got to be able to get your team up. And I just don't think that it's purely a question of motivation. And I think that's kind of one of the big areas where I disagree with a lot of fans is if two teams come in equally motivated, one of the teams is going to win and the other team is going to lose. And so if they were equally motivated, what was it? It was one team played better. And maybe the Dodgers could have been more motivated. We saw it the year before that, but when they lost to the Padres, that was different issues. They hit okay, just not with runners in scoring position. So, but yeah, if the Dodgers bow out in the NLDS, especially getting swept again for the third year in a row, one NLDS win in 3 years, yeah, I think he would definitely be on the hot seat. But it would come down to, can we say that it was Dave Roberts' fault? Because I don't think they're going to fire him just for the sake of firing him, because then you have to hire another manager. And Dave Roberts has been very successful managing the Dodgers, including winning one World Series and winning another World Series, except that the other team cheated to win it. And so, all in all, I don't expect it to come to that, because I do think between all the moves the Dodgers have made, unless they have terrible luck health-wise, I think they're going to go deep in the postseason this coming season. But yeah, I do think that Dave Roberts is more on the hot seat than he's ever been before because of the team that has been built for him.
Yeah, this would be one where and ownership has done a good job of not getting involved too much other than, paying the money. And, maybe this year, I don't think it's going to be different, but, now that Guggenheim is becoming more, Guggenheim baseball has its own logo now and its own brand or whatever and everything else. And I do think that if the Dodgers were to bow out early, I could see ownership saying, to Friedman or whatever, like, we understand Roberts is your guy. He's been good, whatever, but we want to make a change, or we think the change should be made. And I do think that's something that's possible, especially with, it's baseball's hard because you can put as much money into it as you want. And as we've seen, like, you're not always going to win, but for the Dodgers specifically, like, we put all this money into it. We're not getting the results. We've changed the players for the most part. There's been a player turnover over the last few years, and the one constant has been Dave Roberts, and specifically the last 3 years. So I can see that happening, but also it depends how up it goes. Because it's Stan Kasten who's like president. Well, he was president when the Braves were winning 14 in a row with Bobby Cox, and they only won one World Series, and Bobby Cox was the manager that whole time. So there's precedent for him to say, what, I trust in my manager. And baseball, it just happened to not work out this way. It would have to go probably above him into the people with the real money in order, if they would just like, we want to make a change. So I think that's the difference of years past to this year with Roberts, is that ownership could step in if they believe, a change is needed just for the sake of change.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. I have a hard time seeing that. I think that I think in order to get as rich as those Guggenheim guys have gotten, you have to be pretty dispassionate, and change for the sake of change is
these guys specifically, or rich people in general, because
these guys specifically.
Okay, because there's a lot of owners that are not like that.
Yeah, but specifically the way that they've made their money is in investments and a wide range of things. It's I think that change for the sake of change doesn't feel to me like something that Guggenheim would do. And especially, like you said, with Kasten having stood by Bobby Cox, and Bobby Cox is in the Hall of Fame now because he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Dave Roberts will someday be in the Hall of Fame as a manager, and hopefully the Dodgers can get him a couple more World Series titles to get him there quicker. But yeah, I feel like it would be a baseball decision if they do it. I have a hard time seeing it come down from management, but there are other managers out there. I think that it would have to be, they'd have to have somebody in mind who they think you can point to specifically. Here is something that Dave Roberts hasn't been able to do that we think this person will be able to do. And until they have that, I don't see them making a change. And so far, there hasn't really been anybody available like that where, like if Craig Counsell had been actually a free agent, maybe they would have thought about making a move. But but Craig Counsell's never won anything. He's won less than Dave Roberts. So It's it's so hard. And I really do think that the things that Roberts does well are really, really undervalued. And I think that fans maybe don't appreciate it as much as they should sometimes.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those where if the Dodgers lose and Otani, Freeman, and Mookie combine for like 2 hits in the series, and then Yamamoto has a clunker, Glasnow has a mid to bad game or whatever, then there's nothing Dave Roberts could have done. And the other part is like people want to he didn't get their team hyped up or whatever. It's like we don't. First of all, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But you look at who they lost to this year, Torey Lovullo. He doesn't get all amped up, and he's not all crazy and out there. You look at who they lost to last year, Bob Melvin. He's not all crazy and amped up and all out there. So I think and I don't think they're behind. Like I can't see Bob Melvin in the clubhouse just like going like crazy to get his team pumped up at his age and his demeanor. So I don't think that that part gets overblown just a little bit, but also maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
And the team that won the World Series, their manager had articles written about him during the postseason about how his calming influence was a key factor. It's like when you're winning, it's a calming influence. When you're losing, it's not getting your team fired up. And the difference has nothing to do with the manager, only to do with how well the players play on the field.
Yeah. So what could be the reason the Dodgers lose in the postseason if it's not Dave Roberts? We're going to get into that, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL regular season is over, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's wildcard weekend coming up, and right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. All you got to do is place a $5 bet. If you think the Cowboys are going to beat the Packers, or if you think the Packers are going to beat the Cowboys, it doesn't matter because all you have to do is place the bet and make it $5, and you get $150 in bonus bets. It's that easy, and all that money in your bonus bets can help you build out other bets. You can get in the Parlay Hub and build out your own parlay or find some of the most popular parlays of the day that other people are jumping in on. You can find bets in the new Explore tab, see what the most popular bets are, or find some bets that have good odds and find it out and make it yourself. Or you can create your own parlays and do whatever you want. Or you can just make single bets, however you like to do it. FanDuel can help you out. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet today or before the weekend. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. We're here for you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes. You can listen to us in the morning on your way to work, in the gym, getting ready for work or school or whatever you're doing in the morning. And you can become an everydayer by doing so and listening every single day. So we appreciate that. And remember, today's questions have been provided by our insiders, the Locked On Dodgers insiders. You can join at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with us, put out some questions or topics or thoughts, or get our feedback on certain things. Specifically, I know I can help out if there's people that are coming to LA or in the LA area and have questions about either Dodger Stadium or other things. That's one way I can help out. And then during season, might get some videos from batting practice or whatnot. And Jeff is good for all the other stuff. So we're a good team in that way. So go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and check it out. All right. So our last question comes from Seth Bowman from Alabama. So an Alabama guy, Washington guy in Ventura County. We'll see. Jeff knows if Seth's originally from LA or not. But he says, "What do you think? What do you or what do y'all think will be the biggest Dodgers' biggest challenge in 2024? What or who?" He mentions the Braves or left-handed pitchers is going to stand in the way of a World Series championship this year.
I'm looking at my notes on Seth. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I'm not sure if he is. I don't know where he's from originally. I know I've interacted with Seth quite a bit over the years, but I can't remember if he's from California originally or not. But I'm sure he'll let us know when he listens to this. But yeah, a couple of things that he mentions as possibilities would be the Braves and left-handed pitching. There's been kind of a misconception. It was true for a while that the Dodgers really struggled against left-handed pitching, and it still feels true, but it's not actually true. I think the Dodgers were like fifth best in baseball last year against left-handed pitching. Depending on, there's different ways to quantify good, but by pretty much every offensive measure, they were well above average against left-handed pitching last year. And so, the fact is, with all the lefties that they have, Freddie Freeman is great against lefties. James Outman was very good against lefties last year. We'll see if that continues. Jason Hayward doesn't play against lefties. Max Muncy, when he's right, he's very good against lefties. So it's not so much, I'm not as worried about that. Really, for me, what could potentially stand in the Dodgers' way is the fact that baseball is so rarely does the best team in baseball win the World Series. In my lifetime, it's been about 25% of the time. And realistically, since they went to divisional play in 1969, it's been about 25% of the time that the best team in baseball actually wins the World Series. And those odds are only going to go down now that more teams are in the World Series. Last year, the World Series was between two teams that didn't even win their division, let alone be the best team in baseball. And so that's what's standing in the Dodgers' way, is that when you get into it, especially in a 3-game series or a 5-game series, the best team isn't always going to win. Even in a 7-game series, the best team isn't always going to win. And so when you have to do that 3 or 4 times in one postseason, it's like, okay, well, even if you have a 57% chance of winning this series, having a 57% chance 3 times in a row ends up being like a 25% chance. And so in the end, it's the nature of baseball, I think, is what's standing in the Dodgers' way.
If you are a listener of this podcast over any postseason time, I think you know my answer, and it's the Dodger offense, and it's what scares me every October because the pitching has had its issues in the past, but you could always boil it down to the pitching gets more stress put on it or gets more flack on it because the offense isn't scoring. If the Dodgers score 5 runs throughout the entire season, even if you cut that and said, okay, what are they scoring against good teams over the entire season? And let's just say it's 4.5 runs. And let's just say, all right, we're going to cut half a run off of that because, you're in the postseason and things are different. Well, if they would have scored 4 runs in every game, the last series against the Diamondbacks, they would have gone to extra innings in 2 of those series or 2 of those games. And then who knows what would happen after that. So for me, it's always going to be the offense that scares me, and not specifically righty or lefty. It's just anybody. And last year it was 3 righties that the Dodgers faced in Kelly, Gallen, and Fott, and they did pretty well against them. And then the Diamondbacks only had 2 lefties in their bullpen in general, and one of them was a rookie, and the other one was Joe Mantiply, who was not good last year. So, it's not a matter of who it is specifically most of the time. It's just a matter of the Dodgers kind of getting in their own way. So that's always going to be what bothers me. There's no team specific. Like, yes, the Braves are a good team, and, we talked about it, and, they could be slightly better than the Dodgers right now, whatever the case is. But I wouldn't go into a series fearing the Braves as it currently stands. I wouldn't go into a series with any team right now as they currently stand and be afraid of them. I would be more afraid. I'm more afraid of the Dodgers and how they play, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. Because 2017, the first year when we finally saw them break through and make the World Series, they were putting it on teams. Teams were scared to play the Dodgers. And, that's the first time I felt even genuinely confident going into any postseason series. 2018 was a weird year, but I felt genuinely confident because of what they did in 2017. And then, 2019 felt confident. That's when we got let down, and then ODS. Then it's kind of gone from there where it's like, okay, now I'm scared again. So, yeah, I think for me, it's always going to be the Dodgers. And then there might be, like 2018, the Red Sox were a much better team than the Dodgers. And even then, it could have been a close series. And that time it was the pitching in Game 4 that kind of let them down. So, it's always going to be something.
Yeah, when they won the World Series in 2020, the big theme was they were clutch hitting. They scored so many 2-out runs in that postseason. That was the talk of things. Corey Seager went off. Mookie Betts was really good. They got clutch hits from Kike Hernandez and Cody Bellinger and the NLCS. Everything worked out for them. 2021, like, it really wasn't as much the offense in that NLCS against the Braves. They blew the lead, late inning leads twice in that series against the, I think the first 2 games. And so that was, that was bullpen issues. And yeah, if you hit more, you can be more forgiving of bullpen issues and whatever. It's really just been, in 2022 against the Padres, like I said, they hit, just not at the right times. And, I've talked so many times about how that sacrifice fly that Will Smith hit with bases loaded, he hit that thing 1,000 miles an hour, but right at Jurickson Profar in left field. If that is 15 feet to the left or the right, it's a base clearing double, and the Dodgers win that game and almost for sure win the series because, as I've joked several times, I believe I was scheduled to pitch for the Padres in Game 5 of that series if it had gotten there. If the Dodgers win Game 4, they win the series. And so many things in that game. It's like little things. And yeah, you can point to the 0 for 20 stretch with runners in scoring position, and yet still the Dodgers were within inches of winning that series. Really, this last year was the first time that, for me, it just felt like nothing was going right for them offensively. In 2022, honestly, I felt like, okay, they're going to break out of this because they're hitting the ball hard. They're hitting well. It's like they kept hitting it right at Manny Machado or the line drive right at Profar. It's like something's going to break out for them. And then it didn't, but it felt like it was going to. This last year, it just felt like nothing's going to go right. And the good news for me is that it's not contagious. It's not anything to do with the jerseys. There's no curse. Curses don't exist. And so, adding Teoscar Hernandez and Shohei Ohtani to the lineup, maybe that just means new guys to struggle in October, but there's no reason that has to be. And the fact is, we've seen Teoscar hit some big home runs in the clutch. We've never seen Shohei in the postseason because he's been playing for that other team that doesn't believe in the postseason. And so it's, I hope that guy on Twitter gets mad at me again for trash talking the Angels, the guy who got mad at me for saying that Anaheim's not in Los Angeles. But it's, it's a new season. It's a new team. And Freddie Freeman has hit well in the postseason before. Mookie Betts has hit well in the postseason before. Will Smith has. Max Muncy has. They have plenty of guys who can hit. And so if they're all healthy, I expect the Dodgers to hit in October. And, until I hear otherwise, I expect them to win the World Series.
So, like I said, I think it's one of those where when you're one of the best teams out there, you really can only beat yourself. And, that's what happens sometimes. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you for all the questions. We have more questions we'll get into tomorrow probably if there's not any breaking news, and even maybe into next week. And if there's more questions you have, it's easy to send them our way and get priority because you can be a Locked On Dodgers insider. You go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Remember, we are here for you every Monday through Friday, wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. You can find us by searching for Locked On Dodgers, and you can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. It's pretty simple. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. They have 2 24/7 streaming channels, Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, that are running all day on YouTube, so go check them out. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. We're reviving our Instagram, so go check it out. Go find us, add us on there. And you can find Jeff on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us on there if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, cherish my advice for the podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.